Some time ago, I spoke of how just the existence of the demons proves that there's a God. And how now, of course, these people who are involved in witchcraft, they become, when they convert to the good side, you can say, because they see that the father of these demons, although, the demons became demons, they were angels, they still are angels, and they're not ugly, they are beautiful, because God does not make ugly things. These angels are beautiful, but they are demonic. And how those who deal with witchcraft and demonism and the occult, when they realize that they're not serving the one true, being, they become the most devout servants of God because they know he's there. And how I was talking about how that doesn't impress God as much because they've already seen, their eyes have been opened, and God appreciates it more when we believe in him and based on the things he's created. Now, I'm not going to talk about that in this video, but you see, when people when people know that the demons exist and they hear these idiotic claims of evolution, you scoff at them. You scoff at evolutionists because you know that they're wrong. You know what I mean? You know they're wrong. But nothing you can tell them would convince them, it seems, because they haven't seen, and so they would not believe that God exists and that these demons exist also. But this is what I'm going to say in this audio. I'm started off this way. There's a family that I used to visit often. We would always talk about God when I visited them. All the brothers and sisters have faith in God. Yeah. I remember telling them to watch a certain film that broadcasted the wonders of God and his creations, his majestic ways, and how it would give them more faith, because we have to exercise our faith. But their youngest sister asked me, why do I need to watch a film about God? I already believe in him. I know he exists. And that's what she told me. She said she doesn't need to watch a video about the proof of God's existence because she already believes that God exists. Now, I told her that it's always good to learn as much as we can about God and the evidence of his existence and creation, because this is how we increase our faith, because many people begin to doubt God, especially when they see the things that goes on in the world. This is why Christ urged us to keep exercising our faith. She said that she doesn't need to do that. She said that she already strongly believes in God. Okay. And several months passed where I was unable to visit the family as usual and as often as I could, previously. One day I decided to pass by, and having spoken to the youngest sister, she revealed to me that she no longer believes in God. The one who so believed in God now no longer believes in God. The one who believed in God so much that she didn't even need to see videos of God's existence, proof of God's existence, has now become an agnostic. She even concluded that there was no way that God could exist. Perhaps, as is normal in many people's lives, she went through some instances where her faith in God became questioned. Now, this is also a fact that most people who claim to not believe in God actually do believe in God, but they feel that by themselves uttering that they don't believe in God, that it makes themselves feel good because they are trying to disrespect God and trying to make God feel bad by denouncing that they believe in God, But deep inside, they know there's a God. Now, this video isn't even for people like that. This video is for the hardcore believers that there is no God and that everything came through nothing, that everything came through evolution. So some more time passed by before I was able to pass by the house again. And this time, after speaking with the youngest sister again, she tells me that she believes in God again and that she received a sign from God because a rarely seen bird landed on her window or something like that. Do you see the problem here? Faith is a muscle. Faith is a muscle. Faith is not like a muscle. Faith is a muscle. And like all muscles, lack of use or lack of training it will greatly lead to a diminished faith. Again, faith is a muscle. Faith is not like a muscle. Faith is a muscle. And like all muscles, lack of use or lack of training it will greatly lead to a diminished faith. This is why Christ, our Master, Yeshua, kept urging us to keep exercising faith. Because humans have a tendency to have great faith one day, then the next day they have none. And this is a big problem. Either God exists or he doesn't. You can't have faith and then the next day you don't have faith. Which one is it? Don't lean upon two opinions. Either he exists, and if he does, exercise faith in him, or he doesn't, and exercise faith in that. Pick one. There is a reason why Christ said that we must exercise faith. He also says that we should ask the Father for more faith. You see, muscle is something we all have, and so is faith. But those who train it and exercise it in God are those who have the greatest faith. What the youngest sister was basically saying was that Christ is wrong, and that because she already has the muscle of faith, she doesn't need to train it. You see, she assumed that because she already has the muscle of faith, she doesn't need to train it. So she was basically indirectly saying that Christ is wrong, that she doesn't need to train her faith by watching videos that proves that God exists. She doesn't need to train that muscle by convincing herself even more so that God exists, so that she'd have even stronger faith. No, she says she doesn't need to, and that's why Christ tells us to exercise faith. We do not know more than Christ. We must exercise our faith. And she believed that exercising faith in God and training to have more faith in God by watching things that broadcast the wonders and magnificence of God was a waste of time, because to her, she already had the muscle of faith. But of course, she was wrong, because her faith muscle became so diminished that her strength in God went away. There is wisdom in the one who seeks to train their faith in God. There is foresight in the one who seeks to exercise their faith in God and keeps asking God to give them more faith. This is not a bad thing, because Christ tells us to do so. And that is the purpose of this series. There will be many parts to this series, and the purpose behind it is to build up your faith in God through many different avenues. So now let's begin. Yeah, that was the intro. Let's start. Let me prove to you there is a God. The evolutionists and atheists say, look at the computer that is in the palm of my hand. Or look at the computer on the table. See how magnificent it is and how nicely it is put together. I know that through billions of years of evolution, such a masterpiece could come about by itself, alone, without anyone making it. It can just start to make itself without hands. The evolutionists and atheists also say, look at that car and how wonderfully it moves and functions, and the complexity of that engine. I know that through millions of years, this wonder can produce itself on its own without hands. The evolutionists and atheists also say, look at the swiftness of that plane in the sky. I just know that through billions of years of evolution, this metal bird can begin to create itself and eventually lift itself up into the sky without anyone causing it to do so. They also say, look at that beautiful building in the distance, made out of bricks and mortar and stones and concrete and clay. I know that building made out of the dust and clay of the earth must have risen up on its own without an architect of any kind. It's so funny how life works, that all these things just happen to build themselves without an intellect behind it. Isn't that a wonder to behold, how all these things have sprung up from nothing? My brothers and sisters, can't you see the foolishness of those who say in their hearts, there is no God? Psalms chapter 14, verse 1. If a metal computer, or aluminum car, or a steel plane, or a building built out of mud, clay, and dirt, and the dust of the earth, cannot make themselves, how on earth can one say that a creature of flesh, that has veins and arteries and blood, that has been perfectly carved and sculpted, and formed out of clay and mud, and extravagantly put together to perfection, how can one say that it had no designer, and that it came about by means of millions of years to produce itself. How can one say it made itself by itself out of what was and out of nothing? If the brain is the most complex computer ever assembled, and yet you know that the computer in your hand that you are using to hear this very audio could not have come about on its own, then how can you say to yourself that you came about through millions of years of working on yourself? Place your phone on the table, or on the floor, or on your bed. Leave it there. Imagine staring at it for a week without touching it. Now imagine that you are still there staring at it for a month without touching it. By now, your phone's battery and source of power is dead. You continue to stand there looking at it for a year. Now, you continue looking at it. More time has passed. It is 50 years now that you have been staring at that phone. 100 years now. 500 years now. 5,000 years now. 1,000,000 years now. A couple million years now. What is that computer doing? Has it moved? Has it become more than what it is? Or has it become less of what it was without you holding it? Has it moved? Has it become more than what it is? Or has it become less of what it was without you holding it? How about you yourself? Have you lived long enough to make yourself evolve into something greater? Or did you die before the millions of years have come about that it would require for you to become an evolved living organism? But you say miraculously, you have not died. While you were standing there watching your phone in its inanimate state of suspense, did you catch anything springing up from nothing? Did you see a tiny bang in the air somewhere that could possibly create a living organism, or perhaps a whole galaxy of beauty and wonder? Did you see anything coming out of nothing? How about you go into the middle of a desert where there is absolutely nothing? For many, many miles, you stand in the middle of nowhere with nothing in sight at all. You stare in the vastness, and you stare close to you. You look right in front of you, and you look far into the distance ahead of you. You stay there for a day. Nothing is happening, and nothing is even in the process of becoming something by way of evolution. Nothing is evolving. Nothing is becoming. You stay there for a week. Nothing happens. 10 years now. 100 years now. 500 years now. 5,000 years now. 1,000,000 years now. A couple million years now. Nothing has happened. For even your very own brain, the brain that you claim has evolved to its most precedented intelligent state to date, has told you that something can never come from nothing, and that out of nothing, nothing comes. So by your own standards, billions of years of evolution has created your brain, and it itself has taught you. By your own standards, billions of years of evolution has created your brain, and it has also taught your brain that something can never come from nothing, and that out of nothing, nothing comes. Your own brain is telling you that from nothing, nothing comes. Through billions of years of evolution, your own created brain is telling you that from nothing, nothing comes. Do you not trust the logic that billions of years has created for you in your own brain, telling you that from nothing, nothing comes? Perhaps after 1,000,000 more years of working on yourself, your brain will become more intelligent and realize that something can come from nothing, and that a bang can come out of thin air and begin to express all sorts of life forms out of nothing. When a woman is pregnant, how does she produce milk from her breasts? How on earth did she even know how to get pregnant? She just happened to learn how to create all the perfect accumulation of organs to get pregnant? And how many years did it take for her to figure it out? 1,000,000 years? Geesh, women must live for a very long time. And I guess the time frame that she has to actually get pregnant before her menopause is a long time too. Again, how long can you live? Can you live past a century comfortably? So how was the old you that was alive able to stay alive for millions and billions of years to give itself the time necessary to put itself together? That's one hell of a lifespan. How did the old you even learn to become alive? Or was it not you? If it wasn't you, then what was it? Just something that happens to have a mind of its own that can live up to 1,000,000,000 years? Well, where is it today? Please show me. What life form on earth can live past 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 1,000,000 years, long enough to work on itself, to not die, to reach where it is today? Please show me this organism that can live for millions of years. Please show me anything that is in the current process of becoming a flying creature with wings, but was previously a land creature. No, I don't mean something that has already become a flying creature. I want you to show me a creature that is in the middle of its evolutionary process where it can see that, yes, this creature is definitely in the stages of becoming a bird, but it just needs a few more thousands of years to complete the process. A computer cannot be made on its own through millions of years of working on itself. But yet, even a computer is not yet alive. I guess your brain made itself through millions of years of evolution, and then unlike a computer, it was somehow able to give itself life. Oh, wait, no. It didn't take millions of years. It took billions of years, right? That's the answer, yes. That's why you are alive. You had all the time on your side to produce yourself. So let's give the computer the benefit of doubt and give it some couple billion years, and I'm positive that one day it will live. One day. If it gets a cut, it will heal itself. If it gets a heartache or a headache, it'll get some plants to help heal itself. Fools. The fact of the matter is that all things, whether it be a phone, a computer, or life, they all break down over time. But they do not and cannot build themselves up over time, independent of work. Someone has to put it together. But you would say that a baby, an infant, a child, builds itself up over time and becomes an adult. Really? Where did this baby get its milk? Where did any baby of any living organism get its milk? How did it care for itself? Who changed its diapers and heard its call and cries for help? It must have been able to stay self-sufficient until it grew up on its own, right? That's one hell of an evolved baby. I wonder why babies nowadays can't do this. They must have devolved. Just as a phone and a computer needs to be connected to a power source to be active, so too all living things need to breathe. They need a source of breath to live and to be alive. Nothing can give itself the breath of life, and no computer or phone can give itself a charge to a power outlet on its own accord. Nothing can make itself breathe. This is why a phone is dead until it is plugged to an outlet, until it is plugged in by its designer. This is why Adam was dead, according to the Bible, until God blew into his nostrils the breath of life. God is his source of life. God is his outlet. Then and only then did Adam become a living soul. If God did not plug Adam into the power cord, Adam would either have begun to rot away as an already completed project with full form, but with no electricity and breath running through him to jolt him to life, and would have rotted away. By the way, when the living thing began to live on its own, which came first? Was it the nervous system? Was it the respiratory system? Was it the cardiovascular system? Was it the digestive system? Was it the endocrine system? Oh, wait, no. It must have been the reproductive system so that it could continue after its own kind, right? Okay, how did that happen? How did it create its own genitals? How did it create its pleasure senses? Wait. It must have been the skeletal system. Or no, maybe the musculatory system came first. No, because there has to be a circulatory system first. What about the immune system? Where did bacteria and all its good functions come from? Fool, don't you know that all of this and many more processes needed to be there all at the same time, at once, simultaneously and fully functioning with no errors at all for life to even begin to function at its most basic form? Maybe you thought the heart produced itself, or the stomach came first, or the skin and the hair follicles, or maybe you thought that thoughts and consciousness and self-will was what came first. And then you started to think of what parts you needed to put within your own body, and then decided to create them in all its complexities and the billions of data that just one single DNA required, let alone a single cell which contains enough data to fill textbooks from the floor to the moon and back 3 times. Should we really continue? What about the emotions? Emotions are not needed to be alive. If they are, start making them from scratch out of nothing. Why did it even exist? Why do we laugh and smile? Why are smiles so beautiful? Is that necessary for life? What does laughter and smiles have to do with survival? Or does this reflect the quality of its maker, of who God is? Just as you say you produce yourself from nothing, so too we are expecting the cell phone in your hand to evolve into itself a functioning machine with the ability to walk and speak and heal itself from cuts in about 1 billion years when it is left alone. How was the old you able to stay alive for billions of years so that it could have enough time to create itself and become what it is? I see. This is also why you are able to live for billions of years today, right? Because you need to be alive for that long in order for it to take place. Not only does evolution never occur or ever seem to be happening, but if it were to be happening before your very own eyes, you will know that it was an intelligent architect behind it, plain and simple. Again, not only does evolution never happen, but even if it were to be happening before your very own eyes, that something is coming out of nothing, your own conscience will tell you that it is an intelligent architect behind it causing it to happen. Plain and simple. You would still conclude and say, oh my God, God is creating that, because how can something be forming out of nothing in thin air? Other than that, you'll call it magic, because actually witnessing something forming out of nothing is not only strange, but it is very divine. Your own conscience is telling you that you're a fool for not acknowledging that all that you see is a product of God's hands. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. The book of Psalms. The conclusion of part 2. If there is no God, as just 2 examples, how do you explain 1? How do you explain all the Bible prophecies that have been fulfilled that were written before its time? Till this date, the only reason why the Bible stands as the most common and precious book is because it is the only book that has been aimed at to be disproven but still has stood the test of time. How is that the case? 2. Explain how the Hebrews knew about the treasury of snowflakes. The book of Job speaks of the treasury of the snow. Before the invention of the microscope in the 1800s, nobody knew about the treasury of the snow. That every snowflake has a beautiful design that looks exactly like treasures and hidden treasures. No one had a microscope in the olden days. How on earth did the book of Job speak of the treasury of the snow in ancient times if it was not inspired by God? How did the Hebrews know that communications can be made through electricity halfway around the world, also in the book of Job, in one simple tiny verse? How did 40 different biblical writers who mostly lived at different time periods and different backgrounds, who never met each other and lived over a time span of 1,500 years, all have the exact same message to declare, even at a time when there were no telephones, to make sure that their message were in complete unison, and yet today not even one contradiction can be found in Scripture? And again, even those who try to claim that there is contradictions are easily disproven. How can this even be close to a possibility if there was no overseer or oversight or no God who was watching this and putting all these things together by means of his prophets and regular men who were writing these things? If there is no God, how can anything come out of nothing? How did you get here? From nothing. So nothing is what caused you to live, right? Again, what came first? The nervous system or the cardiovascular system? Or was it the digestive system? No, maybe it was the musculatory system. Maybe the endocrine system came first. Or was it the immune system? Oh, wait, no. Perhaps it was the reproductive system which came first. Again, need I remind you that all these systems must be in place at the same time, perfectly working in order for any one of them to work and in order for life to even begin to be formed. Also, need I remind you that even after all these things are in place, something needs to prompt and move this non-living thing to take its first breath of fresh air to even start to function and live. And if just one of its systems fail and malfunctions, it will die. From the very first virus it comes in contact with, it will die. From the very first cut it receives, it will die. It will bleed. There will be no vitamin K. There will be no coagulants. It will bleed and it will die. And where did its blood come from? And who on earth gave it so much food to eat? Who gave every living thing its own food to eat? How did their own organisms even know which nutrients to extract from what it ate and from what's there? How did the man know not to eat grass? And how did the cow know not to eat meat? Who gave the cow perfect teeth for vegetation and perfect organs for grass of the field and the intestines to digest everything that it ate to benefit itself as a cow? Who gave the carnivores the perfect hunting abilities and fangs and dental structures and shorter intestines perfect for consuming meat? Who taught the lion how to mark its territory? And tell me this, how does a perfectly symmetrical face come to exist without a careful artist to design it to be so? Why does every living thing look so beautiful and move so graciously without lagging like a man-made machine when it begins to malfunction? Can a man-made building heal itself after it has been given a cut or a bruise or a dent? Can a collapsed building rebuild itself? Better yet, can a building build itself up from the ground? Oh wait, I know the answer. It can be done, but it must take billions of eons of years. Yes, that's the answer. That's how we got here. And in time, that building will learn how to move and eat and digest its own food and know what to eat, grow teeth, know how to eat bricks and not grass, or perhaps it'll drink cement and not water and milk. Who put all the genetic codes and ridiculously insanely complex information in every single part of our DNA and cell and organs and skin and teeth and hair and tongue and taste buds and nails and nose and ears and toenails and calves and bones? Should I really go on? How did the first organism even live long enough to make its own bodily changes in order to adapt to survive? Is it not taught that the reason why evolution cannot be observed is because it takes millions of years to take place? So tell me, what organism and life creature do you know of that can live to millions of years old? If there doesn't exist anything that can live to millions of years old, then how on earth did anything live long enough to make any type of genetic change to itself to learn to put within itself what it needs to survive? How can it live long enough to know how to fix itself? Can you perform surgery on yourself today? Even though we are much more advanced than civilizations past, can you do that? Can you perform surgery on yourself to enhance yourself? How absurd. Can you teach your body to command its organisms to stop bleeding through the metabolism and utilization of vitamin K and coagulants? Are you saying that life millions of years ago was more intelligent than life today, so that it could learn to make itself aesthetically pleasing and make a mate for itself and to have sex with it and put within its mate the ability to enjoy the interaction and actually orgasm? Don't flatter yourself by giving yourself false credit as if your organism was responsible for making yourself. Did your body even know what on earth anything was? Did anything know what it itself was? To believe the counterpart of God and to believe in evolution is to believe that we came from nothing, and that belief takes a million times more faith to believe in than to actually believe that we came from someone. To believe that evolution is the cause of life, that everything came from nothing, and that life took billions of years to happen on its own accord, and that you can never observe it because it takes millions of years, is also an act of faith, because you cannot observe evolution ever take place. But yet you believe that is why you are here. This is called faith. But your faith is blind, because something can never come from nothing. Your own conscience convicts you of that. Everything comes from someone. God made man, plain and simple, which is why his book to mankind is still here today and contains all subtle proofs of his existence, plus the very visible things you see all around you in creation, so that like the Bible says, you are without excuse. In simple terms, evolution is a belief held by people who lack true understanding of the true complexity and magnitude and beauty and majesticness of creation, so that they actually conclude that it all, along with themselves, came from nothing. And thus they disrespect not just the one who made them and designed them, but they also disrespect themselves and their very purpose for existing in the first place. God gives humans the ability to create, so that they may see ever more so that they themselves were created. Whether you create a building or whether you create one after yourself, a child. Whether it be things and objects that we make, houses and buildings that we make, and whether it be statuses of our representations. God gave humans the ability to create, so that they may see ever more so that they themselves were created. For never did a person see a building construction of any kind and assume that it had no builder. No one ever assumed to themselves that that building has no builder. This is among the unthinkable processes of the mind. We have been blessed over all his creations and have been made in his image, so that now we too can create after ourselves other beings who are made in our exact likeness and are molded by God inside the womb into looking like our exact representation and essence of our being. They say God is very good at hiding that he does not exist. People's thoughts and consciences are very good at hiding too. But we don't deny their existence. We cannot see each other's conscience, but we know that thoughts exist because of what thinking produces. So too, we cannot see God, but we know that he exists because of what he has produced all around us and within us and on us. But since all creations are beautiful, it gives us insight into the personage of God and who he is. And by our own innate consciousness of right and wrong, we also know of his moral standards. Search for him. It is like a man who makes a unique specimen of art. And if it were possible, he gives that artwork the amazing ability to actually think. However, he didn't make it a possibility for the artwork to behold him or see him, but rather placed it in a different building. The artist already made other art forms that can see him all the time, and so decided that this new art will never see him. He wanted a new emotional quality to be produced that has not been produced before, that quality being faith. For although God had created all beings in heaven through his most beloved Son, those beings do not have all the possible emotions that can exist in creation. One of the few and only emotions to be lost in all creations that God made in his image in heaven was faith. If God never made man on earth, but yet placed man in heaven, where the myriads upon myriads of angels already are, this most precious quality of faith would never and would forever be non-existent, because then every creation that is in God's image can see him. And there would exist no creation in his image that cannot see him. In order for such a quality as faith to exist and to be exercised and to be expressed. Not at least until God in a future time decided to create a new creation that would be placed in a position such as we have been placed now, in order that the expression of faith may exist. For without a creation that cannot see God, faith also cannot exist, because faith does not need to be exercised in what can be seen. Such a beautiful quality of a living being in its designer and creator would be completely non-existent. But yet, are you not happy that among all those made in God's image, that you and I are in this most unique stance of existence where faith can be expressed and exercised to its most powerful quality? Would you have rather God given a different world such a valuable ability to express faith rather than the fact that he has given it to you? Are you not happy that he has bestowed such a wonderful opportunity before you to make his heart rejoice by believing in him, although he made you without the abilities to behold him? rejoice by believing in him, although he made you without the ability to behold him. However, if there were to be a case that God has made all creations that are in his image with the ability to behold his magnificence, then faith would never exist. This is not special. But for the ones whom he has made in order that this unique and newly created emotion can be expressed, he has placed all around them vast amounts of things that they may see that he exists, that they may exercise this newly created and most special quality of man, faith. This is precisely why God's word in the Bible says, "For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, says Jehovah, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. Then you will call upon me and go and pray to me, and I will listen to you. And you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart." Jeremiah 29, verse 11 through 13. For the eyes of Jehovah, God, searches the whole earth in order to show his strength in behalf of those whose hearts are fully committed to him. 2 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 8. From one man he created all the nations throughout the whole earth. He decided beforehand when they should rise and fall. He determined their boundaries. His purpose was for the nations to seek after him and perhaps feel their way towards him and find him, though he is not far from any one of us, for in him we live, move, and exist. Acts 17, verse 26 through 28. It is like a father playing hide and seek, and he wants to see how much his children wants to find him. Let's hear that again. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says Jehovah, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. Then you will call upon me and go and pray to me, and I will listen to you. And you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. Jeremiah 29, verses 11 through 13. For the eyes of Jehovah, God, search the whole earth in order to show his strength in behalf of those whose hearts are fully committed to him. 2 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 8. For from one man he created all the nations throughout the whole earth. He decided beforehand when they should rise and when they should fall, and he determined their boundaries. His purpose was for the nations to seek after him and perhaps feel their way toward him and find him, though he is not far from any one of us, for in him we live and move and exist. Acts chapter 17, verse 26 through 28. It is like a father.
O Jehovah our God, please see our peril. Take notice of how our enemy is taunting you. We look to you to deliver us. We know you are the Supreme One. Act in behalf of your holy name. Please, help us and give me courage to do your will.
Isaiah, my brother, this is what Hezekiah says. This day is a day of distress, and perhaps Jehovah your God will hear the words of the Rabshakeh, whom the king of Assyria, his lord, sent to taunt the living God. and he will call him to account for the words that Jehovah your God has heard. So offer up a prayer on behalf of the remnant who has survived.
This is what Jehovah says. Do not be afraid because of the words that you've heard, the words with which the attendants of the king of Assyria blaspheme me. I am putting a thought in his mind, and he will hear a report and return to his own land. And I will make him fall by the sword in his own land.
Thank you, Isaiah. Thank you.
I am Hezekiah. What word do you have for me?
This is what the mighty Sennacherib, favored of the great gods, says to you. Do not let your God, in whom you trust, deceive you by saying Jerusalem will not be delivered into the hand of the Assyrians. Look, you have heard what the kings of Assyria did to all the lands by devoting them to destruction. Will you alone be rescued? Did the gods of the nations that my forefathers destroyed rescue them? Where are Gozan, Haran, Rezeph, and the people of Eden who are in Tel Asar? Where's the king of Hamath, the king of Arpad, and the king of the cities of Sepharvaim, and of Hena, and of Iva?
O Jehovah, the God of Israel, sitting enthroned above the cherubs, you alone are the true God of all the kingdoms of the earth. Hear all the words that Sennacherib has sent to taunt the living God. The kings of Assyria have devastated the nations in their lands. But now, O Jehovah our God, please save us out of his hands so that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you alone are God, O Jehovah.
You have come from Isaiah?
Yes, my lord. He says, "This is what Jehovah says about the king of Assyria. The virgin daughter of Zion despises you. She scoffs at you. The daughter of Jerusalem shakes her head at you. Whom have you taunted and blasphemed? It is against the Holy One of Israel. Your rage against me and your roaring have reached my ears. So I will put my hook in your nose and my bridle between your lips, and I will lead you back the way you came."
Rapsika!
Why are you still sleeping?
My Lord. My Lord. I went to the target as you commanded, but he's dead. He's dead. He's dead.
Not a mark! Not a mark on them!
I was at my post, my lord, all of the night, my king. I swear it. I heard nothing. I saw nothing.
What are we to do?
My lord, who could have done this?
Please.
Jehovah!